All right. Welcome, everyone. First of all, thanks a lot for joining the panel and taking out time. Really appreciate it. How's the event been so far?
All good?
Thank you. All
Awesome.
good so far.
Very
Yeah.
good. What was
Yes.
your highlight so far?
I
Toshal.
think, for me, I think seeing this number of people sitting in the hall is the testimony that we are doing right. Yeah, so clap for all of you.
Coming here on a Wednesday. Sorry, it's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. Right. Cool. So we're talking about digital data sovereignty. I would love to learn from you all what is your definition of data sovereignty and why is it that countries are now talking a lot about it? I mean, not just India. I mean, Europe, UK, so many like GDPR compliances, and now India also has its draft for the DPD bill. So what is data sovereignty according to you, and why do you think people care about it? Let's start with Rahul, and then we'll go this way.
Yeah, thank you for
By the way, you can start with a quick intro as well. Yep.
Hi folks, I'm Rahul. I'm currently the CEO of the FOSS United Foundation. We promote and support the FOSS ecosystem in India. We do events, we give grants to people who are creating and maintaining FOSS from India. I was having a few conversations in the morning about digital sovereignty, and a story that is very much stuck in my head is the Nayara story. I don't know how many people know what happened to Nayara and Microsoft recently. So Nayara, for those of you who have vehicles and you have to fill petrol, you would have seen that it's a petrol filling station, right? It's a company which you can buy petrol from. It's a downstream oil and gas operator. A Russian entity has a part ownership in Nayara. US put sanctions on Russia, and therefore Microsoft cut off access to Nayara, the organization. Imagine if all of you lost access to your email one fine day and you don't get it for, I don't know, like weeks, months?
2
How
months.
exactly would your organization
2 months.
go ahead?
So I'll share the story on it. Yeah.
Right? On a similar note, what happened in the EU was the International Court of Justice, which sits in The Hague, put out recent rulings on the Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, and the US didn't like it, so the US put sanctions on The Hague. So Microsoft also cut off access to all of these bodies that are sitting in The Hague. So again, imagine if the services that you rely on, one fine day, the organization that provides you the services just says, hey, look, our country said we can't provide you services anymore, so yeah, you do whatever you want to do.
My name is Deepthi. I work for Canaries Automations Limited. In the last 6 months, before that, I've been a large part of Microsoft ecosystem, which has been from morning, I would say, under a lot of fire for whatever, services it has been offering for a long time. What is data sovereignty for me? We've been speaking about data being the new oil, the new currency for the longest time. And look at the crowd here and the traffic jams that we have outside. So we have the maximum number of people here. Everything is getting digitized. We are popular for UPI. So all of us have data, are producing data with every picture, every click. And we would want to ensure that this data is safe, ready for use, when we want it to be used, by the people we use. Hence, data sovereignty.
That's a very interesting point, just before I forget, that it's not just about where data is stored, it's also about how it's accessed.
And processed.
And processed, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Toshal Khawale, and I work with PwC as a managing director and work predominantly on customers who are in the FS sector. My area of work includes modernization, migration of legacy application to the cloud. Yeah. Before I start my conversation, I want to just give a disclaimer. Whatever the views I am presenting today, they are my personal view and doesn't associate with my company.
He's a PR trained.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So because I talk to a lot of customers and they take it as a word. Yeah. So for me, data sovereignty is all about the control. Yeah. It's all about control of your data within your own controllable boundaries, and how do you handle it and process it. Yeah. So that is data sovereignty for me. And we are living in a world where there is so much economic turmoil, global conflicts, and so on. Yeah. So it becomes very important that you are in control of your data. Yeah. Because data, as a lot of people are saying, data is the new oil. Yeah. And whosoever accesses the data is going to have a better chance to survive in this economic condition. So just to add what Rahul was saying, my cousin works in Naira, yeah, and all of a sudden, midnight, all of the system gone down, no access to nothing. I met him just 3 weeks back and he said still the systems are not up and running. Yeah. So this is one of the very, very unusual situation that a certain organization has stopped access to everything based upon their inclination towards their own specific country requirement. Yeah. So that is very, very disturbing. So that's what I would say, that this is all about data sovereignty. Yeah.
I just want to add, so this isn't targeted at Microsoft or anything,
Yeah.
but any organization,
Absolutely.
right, which isn't doesn't operate exclusively in the Indian jurisdiction or doesn't adhere to, let's say, Indian norms and laws, or primarily needs to rely on another jurisdiction and then the Indian organization subsidiary, like these are sort of things that like we can't get away with, right? And
We are laggers here, right? We don't have any specific laws or framework that is governing us. We are all adopting from external companies who are giving us this technological platform. Do we have enough laws? Are we aware of it? Did we think about what's happening to our data till we had GDPR? Did it become popular enough?
Is a public draft?
Yes.
No, it's
anybody
passed.
knows? Anybody knows any law which is governing the data sovereignty in India? Anybody? Yeah.
So-
which is DPDP. Yeah. Correct. So that is the new amendment is added in 2025, which was originally 2023 Act. The name was also changed. So this is one of the Sovereignty Act which RBI has enforced on all the financial institute, that yes, any data which is processing related to your financial transaction has to be within the physical boundary of India. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
The funny thing here is, I'll tell you something interesting. Everyone uses AWS, GCP, Azure. Most people, right? If you're using, I mean, they're the big market share. There's no surprise in that. The thing is that we are talking about Indian laws, but for sovereignty, you also have to talk about foreign laws. Yes. Let's say you're using AWS, you're using Mumbai region or whatever. AWS is saying your data is going to stay in India, local in India, but there is no guarantee that they can give. Reason is there's a US Cloud Act, which basically says that if a US-based company is operating anywhere in the world, the US government can ask that company to give the data from that country. So the Microsoft Azure was also not able to commit to Met Police in UK that they will not move the data out. So if you're using like any of the US companies, they cannot guarantee your data sovereignty. If the government tomorrow is like, I need the data that Microsoft you are having in India, they have to get because of US Cloud Act. So you need an Indian cloud provider to be purely sovereign. So it doesn't matter. Yeah.
I'll go one step further. Do you really know the entirety of your software supply chain? How deep do you know what all exists within your software supply chain and what all the dependencies are, right? Geopolitical dependencies of some of those things. And like the cloud provider is only one of those aspects, right? Like deep within the layer, one of the players is the cloud provider that you're relying on, but what about all the other SaaS offerings that you're using, right? What about all the other projects that you're relying on, products that you're buying from somewhere else, where one fine day they might just tell you that, nope, you don't get updates anymore because we aren't able to operate in this jurisdiction anymore.
What do you think of like the cultural aspect? The big cultural aspect. Because how many of you care if your data gets leaked or not? Who cares? Very few people care. There's some कुछ लोग हाथ उठा रहे हैं Oppo के phone लेके घूम रहे हैं. मतलब it's like वो तो Chinese company है, right? But anyway, it's a little
It
joke.
happens in waves, right?
Yeah.
Where people said we will not buy headsets or phone sets manufactured in a particular area. We'll go with something else. Or when they realize how many hours of YouTube they're watching because of the suggestions that come in, it's like, how do you know what I'm watching?
How many
The
of you
awareness is coming up.
How many of you use ChatGPT or Perplexity
Or Gemini. I mean,
or Gemini? Anything? Do you know
everybody.
they can train on your data? They probably are. Talk to Josh about it. And how many of you are using AI at your company? A lot of people. How many of your companies have AI policies? Quite a few. It's nice.
Yeah, there are.
Cool. Right. So my next question is like beyond these concerns around the foreign people, the foreign organization accessing the access to the data in India. What are some of the other key motivations for India to pursue data sovereignty? Maybe are there any economic benefits? Are there any security benefits? Does it lead to more innovation? What are your thoughts on that?
All of them. So first thing is employment. If we decide to manufacture our own chips, if we go ahead and indigenize a lot of things, we don't have to have borrowed examples of where this software can translate into all other French and German, but we don't have examples of that. If you have to speak in a local language, we'll have to build something on it. So engineering was happening in India with Indians testing on it and using it, right? When we said it can speak Kannada, English, Hindi, Tamil, Gujarati and Marathi, that is what we did. Second thing is, we are great. We are a people of nation. Somebody said we are the AI. Why are we trying to prove ourselves we are good at AI? Because without that, AI cannot improve. So the startup ecosystem can be huge. Education we can move from just being software consumers to software producers. We can produce for the world. We have the ability. Now was the turning point, and we should latch onto it. Economically, if we are having more startups here, if we are producing more, if it is going to be leveraged globally, then obviously there's going to be a huge economic impetus.
Yeah. Okay. So I would like to quote one aspect of the economical impact it can create. Yeah. So look at the amount of data we are generating on a daily basis, and India is one of the largest consumer of anything in the world. All top companies across the globe are coming here and trying to get insight into whatever we are consuming. Yeah, so we have a biggest market in the world. Yeah, so that becomes a very, very critical economic aspect when it comes to consume. Yeah, when it comes to actually use those services. And what are we using? Yeah, we might be using some tools, services, SaaS products which are hosted somewhere. So all that revenue, whatever we are actually spending, is going outside of India. Yeah. Having said this, we also need to have some kind of an introspection. Yeah. Where are we in terms of creating the core industries? Yeah, we are still relying on certain different countries for our semiconductor needs. Is there a need for us to build that industry? Absolutely yes. Are we doing anything? Not up to that. Yeah.
What do you think of like? So when I went to China, it's crazy. It's like they are very Atmanirbhar. Everything in China is just like Chinese local. They have WeChat. They have I don't know
so
what.
They have a parallel system for everything,
now,
which is there in US.
When the tariff things happened, and China was just backing off, like okay, we'll do double tariff, we'll do triple. We don't really care. We are like they were not backing out. So like with external conversations like this. What are your thoughts on that? How important
we need to collaborate globally. We need to bring in the foreign direct investments, and then if we need to find research, we are the largest capital of diabetes and things and heart diseases. So we need to get there. We can't lock out ourselves from the rest of the world. But having said that, we should establish what is ours very well, from sensors to everything.
So the question around that is, how can India balance attracting foreign technology investments while protecting its digital autonomy and long-term innovation capability?
I'm sorry, I'm gonna reset things a little bit because I have a little bit of a comment, and then I want to talk about why we care about this in terms of digital sovereignty. If I decide to disappear from here, go into a village, I grow my own food, I set up my own solar, I dig my own water, I have zero impact on the Indian economy. And that isn't a good thing. At least in the capitalistic economy that we live in, why would a government be okay with all of us disappearing and saying that, okay, fine, you know what, you're completely reliable on yourself, because then that person has no impact on the rest of the economy. I'm not buying anything and I'm not providing any services to the rest of the economy. It's as if I don't exist. In very much the same light, I think we as Indian, both the government and the public, we love providing services to the rest of the world and also selling products to the rest of the world. So at the same time, why could we on one side say, you know what, please buy everything that we want to sell you, but then no, we don't want to buy anything from you. it's important to understand sovereignty, and then there is strategic sovereignty. There are things that we should ensure that we have full control over. When you talk about chips, right, wherever the chips are ending up in defense use cases, where we have a question of national security, we should prioritize some of those things and say, you know what, those requirements might not need the latest nodes, might not need the smallest and most powerful chips. So we need to very, very carefully think about what is strategic sovereignty here and what is strategic autonomy here. We can't simply say that anything and everything we're just going to blindly build for ourselves and we're going to be fully reliant on ourselves. Because there again, why will someone come and invest in us if we are not contributing back and if we are saying that no, we aren't going to buy anything from the outside?
We need to classify data into public, private, what is important and what is not. When I was asking a bunch of people, why do you always pressurize the machines to give you answer now without considering the carbon footprint and where are we processing it? The answer was, a human at the back is actually putting that pressure on me, my manager, so I will pressurize the machines. Now it can't be that. We have to be a little more cognizant of everything, I think.
So I agree with Rahul in terms of having that right kind of a balance. Yeah, means when I say sovereignty, I don't want everything be kind of a sovereign. Yeah, we are living in a global world. We are living in a global space where we have to protect our interest, but at the same time we have to be a collaboration with any other player in the world. Yeah, so I think that approach, a kind of a calculated approach, which should help us to thrive in this market, because everybody is competitive and everybody is doing to protect their interest. So why not us as well? Yeah, so we have to keep a balance.
Loving the discussion, couldn't agree more. By the way, we would love audience questions later on. So if
Absolutely,
you have any questions, we will be answering all the questions live. My point is like another question. The first point we raised around the access being lost, right? So when cloud access can be restricted or withdrawn due to like any policy disputes or geopolitical stuff or whatever, how should India prepare for such risks?
Have some kind of DR, have redundancy, keep data as much as possible locally. Now, it's not that our defense data is on the cloud. They use a little bit of cloud. It could be the government cloud. It could be one of the public cloud because of the number of places where it is available. But redundancy is essential. Having that self-reliability also is very essential. It is possible to do it. In the highest sectors, it is being done. Now, you know, we say, do all of you use ChatGPT? Is there anybody who does not have a Gmail here? No, right?
No.
We've been relying on that kind of thing for a long time. It is just now that the awareness has come in, given that what is our ability to do things, why should we do it now? And if we don't do it now, forever we will, belong to a different category of people. Whatever in the 90s, whatever happened with IT services, now we can do it with AI, with the population that we have and the strength that we have even in technology and the government backing us in terms of policies.
Yeah, I think I'll go step one further, and I think identifying what are the critical areas where I'm completely going to be blocked. If somebody has stopped my Outlook, yeah, that's absolute critical for my business. How can I build resiliency for it? How can I build redundancy for it? Yeah, there are, in technical terms, many things can be done, but it has to be done at the operation level, at the business level as well. Yeah, so I would say those things we also need to take care.
Just add one, right? Even the technology that we choose is important. How much of open source are we going so that we don't have a vendor lock-in? And how much of zero architecture dependency that I can migrate anywhere quickly is essential. We may not have all the infrastructure we need today, but the architecture can be built in such a way that we can, think of going there with complete data sovereignty in the near future.
Yeah, we mentioned open source, Rahul, any? Yeah?
Yes.
No, to a room full of technologists, I'll give a policy answer. Because the question here is, like, yes, we do need to think about like what systems and architectures we set up, but at the same time, we need to have some sort of lobbying power to be able to go and push other countries saying, you cannot bully us. You simply cannot bully us. You can't. We have a voice and we need to speak up to our government so that our government understands what are the critical things that we rely upon through various different bodies. I don't know how many of you all, I think most people here are in the software sector. So I don't know if you're a part of NASSCOM. I don't know if you make your voice heard to organizations like NASSCOM to ensure that there is someone who's trying to talk to the government and trying to tell them that, hey, look, we cannot lose access to these things. Yes, we can try and migrate away from some of these things, but at the same time, we need to be able to talk to people, because at the end of the day, we are going to rely on things that other people are building and others are going to rely on us. So having some sort of meaningful political dialogue happening between these places and everyone here being able to speak up and understand what is going on geopolitically is the political answer, the policy answer, and then we can talk about like the technology and the technical implementations.
I think, and I think in the last few years, I think we've seen that we are giving back, we are not holding it. Yeah, so that's a good change I can see.
And what do you think the success looks like for digital sovereignty in the next 5-10 years? What's like your perfect world, or if nothing is perfect, then what would you like to see?
There's a false alternative to everything that everyone can self-host.
See, we've been speaking only of data sovereignty and the policies and things like that. But today, if we say we have to put on some health records, we have ABA, which is again one of the biggest, largest digital systems that we have. And if we say what policies that it says, nobody says it follows a 256 encryption and so on and so forth, right? It is more about, if it is healthcare, blindfolded, HIPAA and high trust. ISO was very old manufacturing one, and then we have latest ISO certifications for a lot of software, but not really there. Why are we so reliant on even foreign bodies deciding what is good for us? We have to define our own rules, and it is possible to do it. For example, the sensors that come up today, senses something in, for example, if you are reading a card today, the example is always SSN. It is high time we said, we are bringing up other reader, you adopt it and build your SSN to it, and this is a very small example, it's a hello world example, right? But if we start indigenizing on the IoTs, on the sensors and things like that, we build for India in a much economic way than what they have been able to build for us, because we always spend money in adoption. There's a lot of innovation which goes there, which is still called only adoption.
I see a very bright future for the next 5 years in terms of data sovereignty. I think the one thing we should as an industry continue to do is to be more consistent in terms of what are the solution we are offering, and I'm talking more on the technical side at this moment, because whatever the solution which are offered by different MNCs, different players, can be developed, delivered within the boundaries of India. Yeah. So one thing is to consistently focus on that. Our market is very cost driven. Yeah. And we need to be very cost conscious in terms of what is the cost a consumer has to pay for those kind of services. So being consistent, looking at the cost, and then having a right support from the government policies will definitely take us through the next 5 years to a position that where we will be able to compete with the global players as well. Yeah. So I'm very hopeful on that.
I think we're close on time. We would love some audience questions before we leave. Yep. Get a mic. Can you pass around the mic? Got it.
Hello. Hi guys, thank you for such an insightful discussion. My name is Surbhi and I'm the founder of an edtech startup. My question is around the size of the country, because when we talk about sovereignty, we cannot discount that a country's capacity to produce all these technologies in-house directly depends on its demographics. We can think about China because they have a Chinese version of everything that's available. They have a Chinese version of YouTube, Google, all of that. But when you think about smaller countries, which maybe don't have the manpower or the resources to produce that sort of, maybe the human capital or the educational capacities are limited, I think it gets challenging. And I think a compromise maybe has to be reached there. How should they tackle that? And secondly, I'm quite optimistic about India because we do have everything going for us well. So I think we are in a good space there. But just from other countries, other perspectives, smaller nations, is it even possible? Is that a consideration?
Can I take? So I would politely defer to what you are saying. Yeah, I don't think we are not in a capacity to create a kind of a parallel system for.
No, I said India is good. Other countries, if they're smaller, they might struggle. That's
yeah. So yes, if you look at other countries, yes, there might be some, but I'm talking more from a perspective of India. I think we are already there. Yeah, we are there. We just have to create a kind of ecosystem which will support this kind of a homegrown system. Okay, all technology, all resources are there, people are there, everything is there.
I think I disagree. We are not there, and I don't think we'll get there in 5, 10 years. Unless we spend money. Like how much do we as a country spend on R&D, and how much do our industry spend on R&D, right? Like we've been talking about spending what, like 3-5% of our GDP on R&D for God knows how many years, and I don't think we have hit that target anytime in the recent years. So how do we get there 5 or 10 years down the line unless we're able to do that? And again, I think the beautiful thing is India is in a great place to be able to lead other countries in Southeast Asia. One of the things that I keep wondering is, like, India is sort of called as a democratic oasis among our neighbors, but at the same time, why is it that we don't have as strong of an economic ties with our neighbors as other European nations do? I don't know. I don't have an answer to the question.
Yeah.
But the fundamental, the response there is, how are we able to sort of lead the path, show the path to other Southeast Asian economies who aren't able to do everything like in-house, and we're able to say that, look, here are systems and processes and things that we can export, and we can have political agreements between our nations to ensure that we aren't going to put restrictive rules on you.
But there also has to be world policies which will support the smaller nations. It's not that everything can be invented there. And the amount of digitization that they have is also lesser. The volumes that they have to deal with is also lesser. So it's not that every country has to produce its own version, which is not the global answer at all. How are we going to collaborate? So we always have import and export over there.
No, this was great, great, interesting discussion. Thank you for your question. And we'll be around here as well if you want to ask more questions.
Hello.
Amanda.
Thanks, Kunal. I'm Amanda Brock. I'm actually your next speaker, and I'm jumping in a little bit early because I'm not going to cover all of this in my talk. I'm here this week because Open UK, Open HQ, the organizations I run, are launching a report on AI and openness, and that report has data that we will share officially tomorrow at BTS. And I can tell you that for the first time ever, India is now #1 in terms of open source contributors across the world.
Yeah.
Fantastic, right? But you are #2 when it comes to contributing to AI. And then when we look at repositories from India in AI, you drop all the way down to #6. Now that's really important to understand because you have skills and you are doing brilliantly, but you are not building the businesses. And as Rahul says, you are nowhere near there. There is an awful long way to go because what we see is US, China, and then a massive drop to #3. So nobody is there apart from the US and China right now. And the amount of money that one of those big tech companies spends in a year is more than your 3-year plan or the EU's 3-year plan. So we are not there.
Thanks for sharing, Amanda. Ricky, how much time do we have? Okay.
Hello.
I just want to add one small thing. Singapore is tiny. It is absolutely tiny. But they are leagues ahead in terms of us. So it's very well worth trying to understand what is Singapore doing right in terms of geopolitics to be able to be in the place that they are.
Hello, my name is Dilip Kumar. I'm a software engineer at Real Page. I'm here in the back.
Okay, I see you. Okay.
Thank
So
you
one
for
more
this
question
event.
and then we will be around here to ask.
I couldn't hear you.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
So I have two questions. The first question is, how can nations maintain global sovereignty when the most critical infrastructure is owned by global cloud providers?
What's the second question?
The second question is, how does digital sovereignty changes when AI models operate on cloud infrastructure?
So I can take that. Yeah. So my view is like, we have ample kind of a infrastructure if I want to actually start building any kind of a infrastructure within India. Yeah. It is all about convenience. It all about what are the different levers I need to use to make my product or my app success. Yeah. Be it any kind of a development on any LLM model or any kind of a solution. So we have it, but then are we getting it at the same convenience as compared to any kind of a hyperscaler? Are we having any kind of a restrictive kind of a policies to access that? So I've worked, my initial days I worked with a lot of private players, yeah? And I see a kind of a drastic shift in the mindset, yeah? we were very scared to actually give the self-service model to our customers. Okay, why? People like to have a control of what they are doing. Yeah, so if we can bring those subtle changes in whatever we are consuming right from here in India, I think we'll be able to compete with it. So that is my answer.
Do you want to wrap it up?
Sorry, I don't want to wrap it up. Please do. I'm just going to give an assignment and in response to the answer. Please read up what model openness frameworks is. Everyone confuses open source models with open weights models, or actually open weights models as open source models. There are true open source models which exist out there. Please look up what model openness framework is by the Linux Foundation AI Institute. Please look up what Creative Commons signals framework is to be able to understand what truly free and open source models look like. And the second thing that I wanted to talk about was, I'm sorry, I forgot. But yeah, that's the reading assignment.
Any closing remarks?
We have enough capability to build what we want. Government is encouraging building of data centers today. They can give us space. There's a scheme called Beyond Bengaluru, okay? So if you want to set up something in tier 2 cities, a 25-seater kind of a thing, it's a 2-year tax holiday plus a lot of other benefits thrown in even in terms of infrastructure. Same thing goes for building data centers. There are not enough takers. There is also a scheme to just skill people, and we are going back to the pure sciences. Today, cooling is one of the most important things that we're dealing with, right? From air cooling to liquid cooling to freeze cooling and so on. There are a lot of things we can do, and when we do it in India, for which we need research funds, which is also being thrown in by a lot of people, but we need the mindset to change. I mean, gone are the days when we were IT service coolies and things like that. So I think we have the ability to do it, both build in India, make in India, and collaborate with the power that he's been mentioning, like what people, like even Taiwan has, Korea has, or Singapore has, is phenomenal. With great hope, I mean, since they're saying sign off for the lack of time, I would say we are poised for great growth and we'll get there.
I would encourage you to connect with all our amazing speakers. You can find them on LinkedIn, and thank you everyone.
Thank you everyone.